first off, when you hear my response to, I'm going to start with number one. Before we go into this, what I want you to do is to really allow yourself to be open when I talk about masculinity and femininity. And please understand, when I talk about these gender roles to the energies in which they create, I'm coming from a very neutral perspective. In other words, if you understand masculinity and femininity from a Taoist perspective or quantum physics perspective, or just say purely it being like a negative and positive pole, not saying negative and bad, but electricity, you'll realize that certain opposites, or what we're attracted to, creates basically frequencies to which creates attraction and so forth. So when I share these concepts, understand you as a woman, you as a person, what you're emanating, you will attract. And the way to just kind of start this off is what I grabbed. And now this could be considered woo-woo, whatever, but here's my pendulum, okay? So I'm going to do this to my best ability so you can see I'm not moving it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll hold it in my mouth, and you'll see it start spinning anyway, okay? Watch this. So you obviously can see I'm not moving it. It's vibration, okay?
It's vibration, yeah.
So whether I use a crystal or an iPhone, lightning cable, whatever, I can make it work to where it vibrates off a person. So a person can show up, and a woman, look pretty, be successful, and have it together, but vibrationally, if she's not available, which I'm going to get into the 7 truth, then she's not going to attract it. It doesn't matter. It's vibration. Now, to answer something that you asked, you said, it seems to be okay in the beginning. Well, in the beginning, remember that it's a lot easier for several reasons. One, if 2 people are lonely, then that will bypass any critical thinking of like, will this work? Number 2, if 2 people are really horny, they haven't had sex in a while, then by default, this is going to be better than not having sex at all. 3, if your desire just to be with someone, companionship is kind of like your bar, then anyone can maybe fill that spot if he or she hangs out long enough. Number 4, if clearly you both are so fixated on the facade, the romantic story. In other words, you talk about how it's going to be, and we're going to be together, and it's so great, and whatever, and you create this idea in the head, you fabricate this. Well, your biology could match that, and it could feel exciting at first. Plus, also being lonely, having sex there. Now you have an idea, and you're having great sex, but then reality kicks in maybe for the man. Oh, I have to have more phone conversations. This is too much work for me. I don't feel good about myself. I'm still dealing with my old breakup. And so this, I guess you say, continuity illusion of this idea starts to crumble. And therefore, there's no longer that attraction. It's not about just the sex, because things are different now. What you have to understand is maybe it's 30, 40, 50 years ago that a man would just be with you for sex. Well, that could be some truth for some men. Sex is pretty easy to get now for both men and women. We have a phone. We can hook up. Yeah. So it's much more than just fucking. So move beyond it. Even if a man you meet is very sexual and talks about that. Yes, a lot more of that, but it's not that. It's so much more. And if you understand this, men have become more emotional, more sensitive, more afraid of how do I approach women, afraid of the Me Too movement, whatever it is. There's a lot of mixed messages. So that's not your business to figure out what their thinking is. What I'm going to be sharing here is for you to be able to move into the states of being that magnetic woman who attracts that type of man that you want, because that's what it really is. Because what's going to sustain itself, the relationship, is how you're showing up and how there's authenticity and transparency versus loneliness and the idea of something and pushing it down. Because eventually what you see is what you experience is it doesn't last. He pulls back. And who knows why? But if you're not showing up fully, these are reasons why. So you want me to jump into this, or do you want to ask me?
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear.
So So the first one is this: how open or closed are your ideas and expectations about a relationship? And what I mean by that is, some women who've dated or been married, they show up with more of ideas of how, I'm this way in a relationship. This is me, how I show up. When you show up with what works, what doesn't work, it's almost like a job interview or interrogation, to where you're not fully present and alive, and meaning that you show up afraid with these barricades, to where what a man experiences, someone who is not really open and available. And think of this for a moment. I have my job together. I go to the gym. I do all of this. So this is me. This is how I am. When you are going to enter a relationship with a man, where does he co-create with you? Meaning,
Yes.
Can he open up the door for you? If you're showed up fixed, how do you, in other words, when two people show up too independently, where is the co-creation in that relationship?
There's no room for it. Yeah.
No. So remember, you have this idea of you, which needs to be let go a little bit. It needs to be a little more flexible when meeting a man. And that might be this. It might be like, for example, you might always have your phone off, or you have a schedule. If you make it really hard for a man to enter, to where, say, a masculine man who has a good job and has ambitious, if he feels as though there's too much effort into this, he's going to be attracted to the woman who's more available.
Yeah.
So just remember how much, if you show up fixed, that there's not space for that man to be able to expand with you. Okay? That's number one.
And men, you will probably agree with me on this. Men want to impress women, especially in the beginning. And if he feels that there is nothing that he can offer her because she is not letting him close in that way that you explained, this could be a problem as well.
Well, I want to take away, it's not about, even if we're not acting like animals, like elephant seals, where, different seals try to like bark louder to attract the female. It's not about him being, because the thing about this, if a man's sense of self is impressing you, he's an insecure man. I don't feel the need to impress a woman. I would love to be open and co-create with her a conversation of what we could become together, because I don't know who I am and who I'm becoming with you, with a woman. See, a relationship is about relating in the conversations, to where when I leave the date, when we go home, my becoming, how I feel, is going to be integrated. And when I wake up the next day, if it feels good, I'm going to call you again.
Yeah.
But if I show up walking away where there's nothing learned and there's no expansion, it's just like some other person who just gave me information about her job.
Yeah, and this is great how you said this. Like, this gives an answer why men oftentimes don't call after this first date. Like, you don't feel it.
Yeah,
you don't feel it.
So
yeah, great.
Number two is, how truly available are you? In other words, hurt, blocks, and other fears attracts men who are afraid of the same. So if you are still hurt, truly are, you can't hide it. Like I mentioned about the pendulum moving vibrationally, you are emanating that. Also, your biology will match that. In other words, the pheromones in which you emit are not going to be ones that are saying, hey, come to me, I'm feeling sexual. It's going to be more, I need to hunt and fend for myself. So availability is really what is really going to call a man in. And that is, like, I met a woman at a retreat last week, and strong woman, really cool, really in good shape and whatever. And she said, I seem to attract only married men. And of course, she shared openly. She said, yeah, I have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm like, okay, well, that's just an extension of that. It's not bad or good. It's that when you can fully jump in, so will those types of men.
Yeah.
So big one. You have to be all the way in or not at all. It's like you can't expect someone to show up and be how you're not. Okay?
Yeah, you actually have to be open to an idea of relationship, because men, they want to commit. and I'll let you speak on that. But women oftentimes have so much bad experiences and think that men are generally not ready to commit, and that couldn't be further away from the truth. It's like men want to commit, but they want to find the right person the same as we do, as women do. And our audience, women who are listening to this interview, most of them really want to find a high quality man. But they have to be aware that also high quality men are looking for high quality women. And as you said earlier, you have to be open to this relationship, like not one step like somewhere else, and just you have to be open with a man. If you want a relationship, you will probably mention this part of the topic somewhere in your 7 truths behind why men pull away. But women need to be somehow, let's say, upfront about what they want. Like if they want a relationship, it's okay to say at some point that I want a relationship, that I'm in a period of life when I'm looking for something like that. Like you don't have to be ashamed of saying this, because a lot of women just think, okay, this will turn the man off, and it's not like that at all.
So you shared something, and I'll get to the third one and try to get through all this in this interview here. But you mentioned something about just listen to the word commit. Okay, I just want to kind of touch onto that. So if I am going to commit, now keep in mind, as a man, I can walk in dark parking lots, and I'm typically not afraid that I'm going to be hurt. I can travel by myself. I'm not afraid to be harassed or whatever. Like, I am very clear and I have a direction, I'm moving forward and so forth. Let's just say if I'm that type of man, and in that, I also have a career and have passions that are beyond the relationship. So a strong man, in a way, has, hopefully found himself a little bit, not totally engulfed in his work. There's some type of maybe self-examination, to where a man who has this together typically will look at women to where, how can this be an extension? How can this add? And so if it feels like you're draining and you need us, it feels as though that you're going to keep us from moving forward to making more money or traveling more or whatever, because we're dealing with all the emotional stuff. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm going to get into emotions here in a moment, but it's where, if you feel free and open in your heart, and it's as if there is some self-care, which I'm going to get into in a moment, where you know yourself beyond this relationship, then he feels safer to date you and commit to you, because he also knows that you're not putting all the responsibility onto him to how you feel. Perfect. This is what this is about. So I have many female friends, and when I've dated people, when I've been in long-term relationships, the ones I've ended were the ones where it was they didn't know themselves well enough. They were kind of like wanting me to provide when I already was providing for many other people and things.
Yeah, that's too much responsibility. Yeah, that's too much responsibility, and partners shouldn't have this responsibility for each other like they have for children. You mentioned your son, so it's a totally different kind of relationship, and it's a perfect explanation. But go ahead with the third.
Number 3 is, how much self-care do you do? And in other words, that I noticed that typically women in the past, it's changed a lot, but women who get older and they stop doing their hair, maybe because out of convenience, or they really make it all about their kids, they don't get their nails done. Oftentimes when you get caught up in that, not judging it, is that also you're not looking at yourself in a beautiful way. So in other words, this is touchy. Okay, so you know this already as a woman, that if you're gaining weight or you're not looking good, but you have an issue with it, it's one thing to gain weight and still love yourself, and it's where you are. It's another thing to be like not taking care of yourself, not, connecting to your flow and receptive mode of being beautiful and feminine, then again, you're not going to show up as bright and light as you could be. Now, to the extreme, you have the women taking the selfies, look at me, and they have a tendency to have guys be attracted to them. Whether they're going to be a long-term girlfriend or not, or there's a one-night stand, might not be a quality woman, but notice the attraction they still get because of that light. Whereas you, as being a high-quality woman, you can have a job, you can have your shit together, but you also allow yourself to be seen by yourself. Therefore, you're seen by men. Yeah. So self-care is a receptive way for you to get energetically in that space to be more available for him. Okay?
Great.
Number 4?
Number 4, we're ready.
Yeah. Number 4 is, what do you really have to offer besides regular sex, basic communication, financial independence or resources, physical companionship, and love? How much do you really glow? I mean, and what I mean by that is, when I say to offer, most people really don't know what that is, meaning both men and women. We have a tendency to go into relationships to see what we can get. So even if you say, I want a man who's loyal because you want to feel safe. If you say, I want a man who has a good career, it's because you don't want to have to take care of him or whatever. So there's kind of a get from that.
Yeah.
And from a get place, you're coming from scarcity. So it's really important for you to know that I have my depth to offer. I have my joy to offer. I have the way. My life philosophy is so kick-ass that in circumstances, I can help bring light into it. Like, it has to be on the basics, because we can all easily fuck. We can all make our own money. We can all have communication, even with strangers. How deep can you really go? What can you really offer? And if you're afraid, you're playing it shy, then what you'll attract is something that is attracted to that, or the opposite. You attract a narcissist who makes it all about himself because you don't see yourself.
Yeah.
So it's very important to know what you have to offer, not what you're trying to get. Different energy.
Yeah, because you don't show up as unique if you are actually in that scarcity. And it's not only in love, like it's in every part of life. If you come from a scarcity, and you are a life coach as well, like if you come from a scarcity area, then you actually won't communicate in the right way, and you won't attract what you want to attract because you are simply scared. And I love how you said you are going to attract a narcissist, or maybe a troubled man who has kind of issues like with drugs, alcohol, and needs a mother but doesn't need a mother. Like women oftentimes take a role of mother, like a savior, and that's never going to work, never. But great. So I love how you explain this.
So the next one is, and I apologize to cut you off a little bit. We're trying to get through all these.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Okay. So how sexy are you with yourself? Meaning, how much do you play in life and flirt? Are you masturbating, or are you waiting to have sex with a man? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because remember that what separates, in a way, a romantic relationship from a friendship is like the sexual energy, that life force. And so think of masturbating, or just when I say self-pleasure, it could be just being in a bath, or even the sensuality of eating a strawberry, activating your life force to where you experience it, feel more vibrant and sexy, and to where you can polarize a man. And what I mean by that, for example, with energy alone, I've been around women who say we're in a nasty relationship, going through divorce for 3 years, and they go out dating, and it's like as if they're so still here with what had happened, problem solving, taking care of children, working with that, like as if they're from the breast down, tears cut off. And it's where, remember, it's not that you put the vagina out there to attract a man. I'm talking about the sexual energy, the life force. I love life. I love life. You want to get that going because first initial attraction as far as what's going to create more is this. And it's no pun intended, but you can take it as it is, whatever. So imagine a key that has little hooks. Well, in order for the whole entire thing to go in, the first little hook has to go in. Then the rest can go in. And I'm not referring to a man's penis, okay? Well, just imagine, though, sexual energy being the first hook. That's where it's like, oh, I feel attraction, something more than just an acquaintance. That first hook goes in, then it's exploring and understanding, then more the key goes into where there's that attraction. If you're showing up dead down below, no sexuality, then it's going to be hard to really attract that man. Or there's many types of men you can attract. You attract a guy who says that he doesn't care about sex, or the guy who has low libido, or the guy who is afraid to ask for his needs. Therefore, he is into you because you seem safe because you're not really sexual, nor is he. See, you want to become that what you want to experience, is what I'm trying to say.
And you're not getting what you want. So ladies, listen to the doctor. I love, you brought up a topic that's very interesting and nobody has brought it up yet. So I think that it will be a very interesting point of view for our listeners, for our ladies. So you have to show up in every possible way in order to get what you want. But let's move on to the next truth.
Okay, this one's a really big one. The next two I feel really juicy, and that is, how authentic and transparent are you? If you're not, you'll lose yourself in a relationship. You can attract a man who fears the same. The more open you are, the more open a man will feel to be in your space, both in the dark and light. In other words, for example, I'll just share where I'm at. And this happened. I was on a date about a month, and we're still talking. It's unfolding beautifully the way it should. I trust divine timing. But she lives, that's kind of part of it. She lives 114 miles away. Same continent. You can see it that way. Well, at least she's not in Europe, but it's still distance. And I have my son will be 5, and I raise him on my own, and she has a child. So the scheduling is there. And I admitted openly to her while we're on the beach, connected. I said, one of my concerns is that you do live far away. And I go, I was kind of first hesitant to see you, and that, but I just want to see what happens because I know that I love this area anyway too. So I'm going with the flow. Now, most men, because they want to get into a girl's pants, or they're afraid this woman must mean that you don't want to see me. They won't say that because you take it personally. That woman was very appreciative, and she said, "Yeah, I hear you. I felt the same way." And it led to just kind of that's just there. It's not hidden. It's not a secret. To where she said to me, she said, "I'm not fully ready to maybe date. I realize that. But I realize you are so, I've never spoken to a man like you before. You're so different than what I've been around. And I'm afraid to tell you that because when I wasn't intimate with him, he didn't want to be around me. And right now, would you be willing to us just kind of go with this flow until because I know I'm working on stuff, but I'm afraid to tell you this, Ray, because I'm afraid if I don't give you sex or we're not intimate right away, you'll pull away. Because I noticed that with some men, there's some agenda. And I went, oh my God, that's beautiful. I mean, it's melted my heart.
She was vulnerable.
Oh my God. Yeah. I went, and so we're still in touch, and it's expanding. But there's stories like that, where it's just really there. I have a male client who hasn't had sex for 25 years. And
really?
He's dating someone who's close to his age too, and it's going amazing. And they're moving in a department where it's starting to get to second and third base. And he said, what? He said, I'm afraid that I'm inexperienced I said, well, she's close to your age also. She's not like playing games. She's ready to be transparent. I said, you know what? Men who are transparent, who show up and make exact decisions and are responsive for themselves are so fucking sexy.
Yeah.
So my client says to her, you know what? I'm a little bit rusty. I haven't been with someone in a long time. And I am afraid, like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she looks at him and says, you know what? I am too. And you want to know what? And when you're ready, I'll follow. You just lead and you'll go here. I love our pace. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. He lit up. He felt free. Most of the time when men run away like a stallion or don't want to commit is when your ideas of how we should be, your judgments or whatever else it is where we can't feel like we can be us, where you kind of like you are reactionary to our shares, our openness. We want to be, just like you want as a woman to be able to express just anger. It doesn't mean you want anything to be changed.
Yeah.
But you want that space. What has happened with men today, or the men you probably want, where they are sharing and they want to express. And the more they feel free in that, the more they'll be connected, the more they'll be open to it. So transparency is so important, so important. It opens up that space to a man's heart. You want a man to choose you from his heart, not what he thinks and how he thinks you can add to his life, but that his heart now yearns for his own expansion in his growth of his becoming. Because if he becomes more interested in himself through his experiences through you in that communication, he's going to want to be with you every day.
That's such a great explanation. And I love the example that you gave, like yourself. You are a high quality man, and ladies, he's still single. One more information. So, but I love how you explain this on your own example, because you are like a type of man that women oftentimes want. You are educated, good looking, and so on and so on. Like, and you said it from an expert's perspective, but you were also speaking as a man, and you were talking about this date with this woman, and you were a man on this date. Like, I loved how you explained this, and ladies, you should really follow this advice. Like,
yeah, it's you know, it's being able to hold that space. You know, for example, I have a son will be 5 in July, and I raise him on my own. So I'm a full-time father.
Wow.
His mother actually gets him every other weekend. And those arrangements that we both agreed on. And so the first person I had ever dated was someone who I would date when I was younger and didn't have a child. So I didn't know what I was doing. And so I was like, whatever. And many of my questions almost felt like interrogations for her, such as, how comfortable are you with a child? And like, I was front loading it because I was in fear. I didn't know. My circumstances were very unstable. And at the time, because of, say, the mother of my child. And so I was still finding my ground. And so now when I go out and meet people, and I'm not really dating actively, I have a really amazing life. So it's not like I feel I miss anything. But let's just say when I've kind of played with the idea of talking to people, or like with women who might say be interested, it's like where I'm still discovering that. My new becoming of who I am is that, because I've never been a man with a child and dated someone for more than 2 years now, or with clarity. So whomever I'm going to be with next is going to be a co-creation. But women, as you hear me, and this is not to give me kudos or make me look good, does it make you excited to know that I'm not showing up figured out? But I also am not feeling like I don't know what the fuck I want to do in my life. It's more like, let's create this together, because you might be in the same place. This is that vulnerability. It's saying that I don't, you know, like the festival girls I used to date who are kind of really feminine and just whatever. I'll talk to you in a week, right? Oh, that doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. First, I thought, oh, I can be compassionate. No, it doesn't work. It's not bad or good, but I'll be 50 in August.
How 50 in August?
Yes.
Really?
So, yes.
I would never say that. Like everyone on this summit, like look great and could never guess their age. But you said festival girls, right? I'm laughing out loud.
Well,
I didn't hear this expression before.
Well, it's like, it's the goddess feminine, just like kind of going with the flow and whatever. And I'm attracted to light. I'm attracted to that energy. But what I've learned through my female friends who have a little bit more masculinity is that that's more my ideal partner now. Like meaning that a woman who kind of has a little more direction, because I prefer them being grounded. I prefer them because I have a home, I have a nest. And if you want to be out and about and try this, do that, whatever, I might not be the person you want to be with. You might want to date an actor.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and it's okay. So
good point there.
Yeah. So, and no judgments about actors, but you understand that.
Yeah, of course.
There's no schedule. You can. If you want to be successful, it's just So number 7, drum roll, is you're all going to love this, is how much do you trust yourself, such as trusting you can handle it if the relationship ends? How much do you trust the way that you can pull out if it's not working? How much can you trust yourself to not lose yourself in a relationship? How much can you trust your heart over his words and actions? Can you truly surrender and trust the flow of things? Or are you pinching off your energy trying to find a perfect man, and basically when you think he is it, you go for it? Or how much can you trust that you don't ever find a perfect man? That you co-create it. You create the relationship, no matter what. Even if you meet a man and it's a one night, it's the first time you go out with him, you have sex with him, it's freaking amazing. You have great sex every time, and that's what you have. No matter what, that will fizzle out. So even with that, you're going to have to co-create new ways to be stimulated.
Yeah.
Okay?
Perfect.
Everything. Also, there's ways in you look at sex, spirituality differently. Like back to the sexual conversation here is this. You might be saying, I'm very sexual. It's on your profile. I love that. I'm very sexual. And you meet this guy, you even start sexting, like playful, light stuff. Go on a date, couple dates. You go to his place. And you say, I'm going to get more comfortable. And you go in the bathroom and say you come back out and you have your lingerie on. And your idea is that you're just going to lay with your underwear on or touch or whatever. And he's full on with an erection, stroking himself on a bed, waiting for you, thinking he's going to have full on penetration. And you're thinking, what are you doing? I'm not that type of girl. And he says to you, but I thought you said you're really sexual. And you think, yeah, but that's not my idea. Okay? Both people
sexual. Yeah.
have their own way of thinking of sexuality. That's a funny one that I use at workshops because it's very visual. But it's a way to remember that my idea of sexuality is different than this man, even though with linear language he says he's sexual. My idea of commitment might be completely different than what he says. You don't know. Don't expect. Co-create. Go there not being fixed. Allow yourself to be open. Trust yourself. Know when you're available and see what could be created. And here's the thing, is when you're truly crystallized in that experience of that state of who you are, the profiles, the men who approach you start matching that anyway. So in other words, that it's not like you have to go through 50 bozos to get to just one quality man. It's where you might go through 10 guys who are uncertain, and 3 are like, okay, now I have a high quality problem. I like Jim, I like Mark, and I like Larry. What do I do? Well, that's a great high quality problem.
Yeah, perfect. So all in all, what you want to say is that women should date and they should show up the way they want to kind of
be in, create the state you want to be in, flirt with life, be happy, be love itself. And if you're listening to this and you say, but I have been traumatized, or I have been through 3 divorces, or I have had many men cheat on me, well, yes, that is your experience, that might be your reality, but then what? So is that going to be your excuse to not experience something? And if you say, well, I've been on these summits, I've done the work, well, maybe you haven't done it deeper. Because here's the thing, there are many people still getting married. There's many people still having amazing relationships. Maybe you don't see it a whole lot because now reality TV is about spotlight and drama and stuff. But the relationships that are thriving, typically you're not going to see it in social media, because you want to know why? They're having a great time.
Yeah. And men, actually, high quality men or men in general, want to be close to women who are happy by themselves, who don't need a man to make them happy. Men don't actually want this kind of responsibility. Like, they want already a woman who is already happy and having a good time. So perfect.
Well, I'll just close it with this interview, is that you said something that's really important. You said the responsibility. The thing is that it's one thing to be able to say, hold space for me as a woman, I need to share or whatever. That's great. What we're talking about, it's where it's like you're infantile, you're just a child, and you make him responsible for everything. He needs to be able to have the flexibility to be on and off. Now, if he's off a lot, that might just be how he is. Okay. We're talking about, like, I will have my moments. You know, for example, when I finally had broken down and ended it with my ex, it was when the mother of my child disappeared. And I wasn't present on the phone with her. And that was a major life transition. I felt stress. I got really frustrated. And that was where, while I wanted to be present with her, part of also being an independent woman and strong is realizing, okay, this is a moment. He needs to be a container. The mother's child has been gone for 3 days. You see what I'm saying? Is that this is about both balancing. If we're both, men and women, are going to be masculine and feminine, being in a flow is where you can share and you can hold space. Share, you can hold space. It's going back and forth. It's not one-sided.
It's like a dance.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Like, I love everything that you said, and I think that many women will want to connect you from will want to make a connection with you from various reasons. Hopefully, they want to search for advice from a doctor, like psychologists. And what would be the best way that they can reach out to you? And you also have a great special free gift.
Yes.
So what could you tell us about that?
So the gift, and I'll give my website. And one last thing is this, that I do pretty well for myself. Like, I have my whole life streamlined. When I say streamlined, I have help. I pay for help. I have a personal assistant. My laundry's done for me. I mean, you know, like, I pay for this, and so it's not like it's given to me. And with that, my greatest joy, kind of being probably a more masculine man, like old school, like my dad is 93, so I'm kind of the last of the Mohicans of, like, masculine men. It's so much joy for me to provide for a woman, even if she has a job and makes her own money. It's when she can show up and receive me. So I went on a retreat by myself, and it was there for me to get away and everything. And I did connect with female friends there, or people I just met there at this retreat. And it was just wonderful to be able to do that. But yes, in my mind and in my heart, I thought it would be great to be here with a lover. Because I know most men who are masculine and protectors and providers and whatever, that what we really desire is that connection, that light, And so otherwise, we kind of get caught up in our heads and working, and life kind of gets boring. It's with your beauty, it's with your smile, it's the way you put on your makeup and everything else. Remind us why we do it all.